Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Kev's Kitchen, Cooking Outside the Lines. This is a cooking show where we ditch the recipe and rely on cooking fundamentals. Again, in this episode, we're gonna have a 5-ingredient flow. We're gonna have one composed dish, and I'll be sharing 2 tips and techniques and give 1 key cooking fundamental. And so for this episode, we have a chili glazed salmon with snap peas, charred carrots, and egg noodles. And so again, we have a beautiful fillet of Atlantic salmon. We have carrots, lime, snap peas, and a chili sauce or a lime chili sauce. We're gonna finish that off in just a little bit. And then you can use egg noodles, wheat noodles, or rice noodles. These are actually a wheat noodle, and they're gonna be a quick cook. And so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna show you some techniques, we're gonna give you some tips, and have one tie in at the end, our mise en place moment for our professionals, our founders, and our busy folk out there today. So let's get started. We've got a couple pots on the stovetop. I've got the butane burner, and I've prepped a few things. And so I wanna show you our snap pea prep. This could be snow peas, this could be snap peas, but I like to check for anything that looks kind of off, like this guy. We're gonna put him in the reject pile. And then we're just gonna go through and clean our snap peas. And so here we wanna string these a little bit. And I just take a regular paring knife. You could use what I call a serrated paring knife, which is one of my best friends in the kitchen. And we're just gonna go through and pull any strings from these beans. If you grew up in the South like I did, maybe you had a grandma who would string beans. That would be a different type of bean, but we're just gonna go through and remove these strings. Unless you wanna floss your teeth with it later, it's a good prep step. And so we've already done that to our batch here, but I wanted to show it to you. And then secondly, let's take a look at our carrots. And so obviously this is a regular carrot. I went ahead and peeled our carrots. You don't have to do that, but you can. And then if you don't have one of these at home, this is what I call a Y peeler. You can find these online, pretty cheap and inexpensive, but a great tool to have in the kitchen. They really expedite and make your peeling efficient for a variety of vegetables, including mashed potatoes, or potatoes for that matter. And so what we're gonna do with these carrots, we've got our snap peas, we've got our carrots. You'll notice the cut on here. This is what I call a oblique cut, or a roll cut. We're gonna also cut it on the bias. So 90 degrees, 45, we're gonna cut it at an angle. I'm gonna show you that now, and then we're gonna get into building our dish. And so the goal here is for this dish to take less than 30 minutes. You can feed 1 or up to 4 in about a half hour with the plan, with the strategy, and with intention. It's gonna help us execute with ease. And so with this carrot, we've got it on our cutting board here. One tip is always to secure your cutting boards with a damp paper towel. And I've seen people not do this. The cutting board's sliding around the whole time they're in the kitchen, and they're like, what's going on? Well, secure the cutting board first. Always tuck your tips of your guiding hand, and then we're gonna turn our knife at 35-degree angle. We're gonna eyeball it, and then we're gonna roll our carrot with every turn. Like, we're gonna roll it, right? You're gonna notice we're gonna make our first cut, and we're gonna roll it to us. We're gonna make another cut, roll it to us. And then again on that bias, another cut and roll it to us. And so then what you get are these unique little carrots that look a little bit different than what you're used to. And so oblique cut on our carrots, we have our snap peas, and we have our noodles. And so anytime I'm in the kitchen, I think about time and sequence. And so let's start with what takes the longest first and go from there. And then I wanna make things easier to execute with. So we've got one pot we're gonna use for multiple things to build this dish. And so we're gonna start with our salmon in a second, but I wanna talk for a moment about blanching. So what is blanching? Blanching is where we bring a pot of water to a bowl, add a little bit of salt, salty like the sea as I was taught coming up, and then we're gonna drop something in there for just a few minutes. This is gonna par cook it, set the color, in this case green vegetables, and then it's gonna be ready to use immediately, or we can save it for later. We can blanch and shock, meaning we can put it in an ice bath or ice water for a little bit. It sets the color, it stops the cooking, and then we can make it dry with a paper towel. And so let's get started here. I wanna sear off the salmon. We're gonna finish our veg while it's in the oven, and we'll bring everything together. And so as promised, we have 2 tips and techniques and 1 core or key cooking fundamental, and we're gonna get to that. Let's bring over our butane stove. I want you guys to see the sear here. Make some room. You gotta work organized. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's like, how do I not make a mess in the kitchen? How do I keep from having to wash 55,000 dishes. And so I said, you got to think mise en place, all things in place, and you got to stay organized. Okay. So in episode 1, we talked about searing. In this case, we're going to bring our pan up to temp. We're going to get it warm. It's kind of preheating like you'd preheat the oven. We're going to preheat our pan. And we're going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in this case. You could do a neutral oil, a grapeseed oil, or something like that. And then we're going to put our protein in the pan. In this case, our salmon, I'm going to season it with just a little bit of salt. If you have white pepper, that would also be amazing. And then we're going to lay it away from you as to not splash up any oil. I always lay food away from me. And then we're going to watch it. And it's going to tell us, like it's going to talk back to us. One thing I love about cooking is it's sensual, right? And so we're going to use our minds. We're going to look for things and listen for things and see things. And so we're going to watch the protein in the salmon coagulate and the colors change. It's going to let us know like where it's at in the cooking process. And so we're going to bring this oil up to temp. We're going to look for that little sheen, that little shimmer. And then we're going to lay our salmon fillet in the pan. While that's heating up, I do have a light vent hood on here in our kitchen today. I've got our pan on the stove and I've got our oven set. This could be 400, 425. That'll work perfect for our timing today. And so again, in the kitchen for easy execution, it's all about timing and sequence and having a game plan on the front end so you'll go further faster. And so I can tell this pan's getting warm. And so we're gonna go ahead and lay our seasoned fillet of fish in. Now, real quick, I always like to kind of scrape almost or pat dry with the paper towel, but you can press upon that. You can press upon the skin even and press out water. You're gonna remove moisture so that you get that nice crispy skin or crispy sear presentation side down. So we're gonna do that in a minute. We're gonna put it back on the stovetop. You'll notice here that first side is already starting to turn colors. And that's like an indication. It's like a KPI, a key performance indicator of where we are in the cooking process. So as that presentation side, the nice side of that fish starts to cook, what is it, opaque, transparent, translucent, you know what I'm talking about. Like it's gonna start to brown and get that crispy crust that we want, especially with a nice sear. The texture of that adds to the flavor and the eating experience. And so we have our salmon fillet here. We've got it over like a medium to medium low temperature now. And we're just gonna let it kind of crisp and sear and start to caramelize. You can flip it over, you can pop it in the oven and finish it there as well. And so while that's in the oven, I'm gonna show you the vegetables. For the most part, a lot of people talk about fish, they're uncomfortable cooking it. You wanna cook it internally to like 145 degrees. So if you're the type, you wanna use a thermometer and you wanna follow the health regulations, whatever, 145. You can eat salmon a little under if it's a quality piece of fish. If you're looking for a target temperature, it's 145 Fahrenheit. But we're gonna finish this in the oven. Let's flip it over, pop it in there. All right. Now you do have the option, that's beautiful. If you want to eat the skin, serve the skin, you make sure you get the scales off. That may be a conversation for your fishmonger or your local fish market. You can sear it as well. You can sear it and get a nice crispy skin. I'll show you this crust before we pop it in the oven. All right, beautiful. So check this out. This is a nice crispy brown skin. This is what we want, this nice color. Now you can tell it's still very much raw. So we're gonna put that in the oven. And while it's cooking, we're gonna finish our veg. And so this is the fun part, right? This is the fun part. We're gonna bring it all together. And I always like to work clean. Think about mise en place, having all things in place and having a nice workstation. So one way to make cooking more enjoyable and easier at home to get food on the table during a busy work week is to work and clean as you go and not to have a big mess at the end. That's the last thing you want when maybe you want to work on a project, be with your family, watch a show, whatever. Let's make it easy. Okay, so with that in mind, we have 5 ingredients. We have our salmon, our carrots, our snap peas, our lime, and our sauce, and our noodles. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I said charred carrots, so we're gonna preheat this other skillet here. And because I've already blanched these carrots, we wanna finish them in the pan to get a little bit of that caramelization. The natural sugars will come out. It's gonna give a nice boost of flavor. I love a charred carrot, a roasted carrot, charred carrot, burnt carrot, whatever you wanna call it. They're one of my favorite vegetables. And so here's what we're gonna do. The water's still boiling. We've had it on. It's salted, right? And so our carrots are going in the skillet. Snap peas are going into the pot of water. They're gonna blanch those. I'll walk you through that. And we're gonna finish the salmon with the sauce when it's done. Good news is these egg noodles, or in this case, these wheat noodles, they take like 30 seconds. So you just gotta drop them in, pull them out, right? It can't get much easier than that. And then you've got dinner. And it's like, what, less than 30 minutes? So let's do that. And we'll talk about our tips and techniques. So, key cooking fundamental for episode 2 is blanching, right? And so, boiling pot of water, salted, 2 to 3 minutes cooking a green vegetable. What's gonna happen there is it's gonna take it from raw to cooked. It's gonna cook it partially, and it's gonna set the color. In this case, we have our snap peas. The cells of these snap peas have chlorophyll, hashtag science class from when we grew up. It's gonna brighten the vegetable. It's gonna activate the cells in the structure of our vegetable here. We want it to crisp up our vegetable and bring out the color, right? Nice bright green, nice and vibrant. And that's what we're looking for. We're gonna pull those out of the water before they overcook and get ugly. And if you want to save these for later, have a nice crispy snack, drop them in ice water for like 2 minutes. Pull them out, drain them, pat them dry, and you'll have them as a snack. You can use them later. And so we're gonna pull those out, set them aside, flash our carrots in the skillet, and bring this together. All right. And so when we build our dish, I wanna show you how to use our microplane or zester or grater, if you will. And then we're gonna talk about how to enhance our flavors. And so 2 to 3 minutes in the pot, salmon's in the oven, and then I can tell that we've got our smoke almost on the skillet. We're gonna add our carrots. It's talking to you. It's talking to you. That's actually a good thing. And so with proper ventilation, you want to hear it. You want it to talk back. That tells you that the pan is hot. What happened there is there's a little bit of water on those carrots from earlier, and they interacted with the oil in the skillet. So no worry, no harm, no foul. All right, let's get our snap peas out of the pot. All right, nice and bright green. They're not mushy, they're not overcooked. I'm gonna go ahead and run a little bit of cold water over those. And we're gonna drop in our wheat noodles. All right. You gotta clean up, you gotta work as you go. This is beautiful. So you can kind of see already, nice little char, nice little color on our carrot. They've been blanched, which means they're like par cooked, so they're not mushy, but they're tender, right? So salmon's rocking and rolling, noodles are draining or cooking, snap peas are draining, carrots are caramelizing. We're gonna finish with a little bit of acid and bring this dish together. All right, so let's recap what everything's finishing off. 5 ingredient flow, We have our lime zested or lime glazed salmon with burnt carrots, snap peas, and lime chili sauce. And so we have seared. We patted our fish dry. We have blanched, our core technique, our key cooking fundamental this time. We've talked about blanching and shocking. We talked about patting it dry and using one pot repeatedly to make cooking easier on, say, a weeknight, right? We're blanching, we talked about shocking, we're caramelizing, we're searing, okay? And then when we bring this together, we're gonna enhance this dish. We're gonna elevate it with a little bit of acid, in this case, some citrus zest or lime juice. Oh yeah. So check it out. We've got a nice little caramelization here. All right, noodles are done. I'm gonna pull out our salmon and check it. Oh yeah. Kind of press on it. How soft is it? You want to check it with a thermometer? That'd be up to you. I like it. So for our glaze, at this point, we're just gonna pour it onto the salmon and let it kind of do its thing. I'm gonna pop it back in for say 30 seconds and let it kind of coat it naturally. And we're gonna bring this together. All right. So, we have our wheat or egg noodles. Try to get a little bit of height on there so it looks good. You wanted to add the sauce to the noodle, by all means, go ahead. Looks like a nice portion for me. We're gonna add our crispy snap peas. They're bright and green. They're not overcooked. They're not mushy. They're good for you. We're gonna add a few of our crispy carrots, burnt carrots, if you will. Smells good too. If you wanted to add some dry spices or something like that outside of our 5-ingredient flow, some fresh ginger would be nice here, maybe some garlic. Again, we talked about white pepper on the salmon. I like to use white pepper sometimes when we don't want to see the black specks. And we have our nice Atlantic salmon fillet with our chili glaze. Let's finish this off with our lime zest and call it a day. Look at that, beautiful. Now again, you notice I got a few pots back here. They're stacking up, but it's just, 10 minutes of effort. We're good to go. Let's set this off to the side. And so last but not least, we're gonna take our lime. We're gonna zest it, right? We're gonna zest it. We're gonna get out the oils and the fragrance. We're gonna activate that here. And then if you want, you can slice a little wedge, squeeze that right across the top. And you can do that. You can obviously do this right here. That acid's gonna brighten up our dish. It's going to kind of combine with the chili glaze, and it's gonna bring it another notch up. And so we're gonna elevate the dish with a little bit of acid to help with our flavor. A nice wedge of our lime there. And we have our chili lime glazed salmon with our noodles, our burnt carrots, and our blanch snap peas. Guys, thanks for joining me for episode 2 of Kev's Kitchen, where we cook outside the lines, the cooking show where we don't rely on recipes, but trust our fundamental cooking techniques. And so I always want to end these episodes with a mise en place moment. And this is where we have professional tie-in. And so if you're a working professional, you're busy, you're a founder, you're doing things, you're pursuing your dreams, like life is busy. And so when we blanched our vegetables, we drop those into boiling water. That's 212 degrees. 212 degrees, right? That's an aggressive boil. If you put green vegetables into the water and overcook them, they lose their essence, they lose their nutrients, they lose their quality, the texture, the look. They go from bright green to drabby gray. And it's the same for our teams and our careers. If we have standards of perfectionism where the culture is so tight, the pressure so much that we can't make mistakes or have a momentary mishap, if we have a mindset of perfectionism, like we're gonna overcook our careers, we're gonna lose our luster, our teams, our employees are gonna disengage and pull back, and that's where we don't find fulfillment. And so guys, I encourage you to blanch properly, don't overcook your careers. And guys, this is Kev's Kitchen. Until next time, stay sharp.